Days left now before the midterms. DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz joining the growing list of Democrats who will not stand with the president or even will sometimes mention his name. Here's what she had to say yesterday about his policies and him on the ballot.
If you vote for Democrats, are you voting for a continuation of Barack Obama's policies? He says, yes, you are. Do you agree with the president?
If you vote for Democrats, you are voting for candidates who are focused on creating jobs, getting the economy turned around, and continuing to move us forward.
All right, Dana Perino's co-host of The Five, former White House press secretary with me now in studio. Communications is your business.
Yes.
Messaging is how you cut your teeth at the White House, right? This isn't easy. I mean, this is like a mad game of Twister, right? Where they're just, put your right elbow on green and your left ankle on yellow.
Yeah, the Democrats, I think at this point, 12 days before the election or 13 days before the election, are thinking, we just want to get it over with. I think they see the writing on the wall. The White House has not given them a lot to work with. The president is extremely unpopular. His policies are unpopular. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been a very loyal person to him. She's a survivor, right? She'll say anything. Even as the domestic tanks are rolling into the Capitol, she'll pretend like there's not a problem for President Obama. But I think there's something else going on here. This is happening all across the country. Democrats are distancing from President Obama, an unpopular president. But even to the point of saying that they wouldn't support him going forward, I think that probably is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. They will support him, and that's what the Republicans have been saying, is that don't believe these Democrats who say they are so independent from President Obama. They vote with him 99% of the time. On Tuesday, when President Obama talked to Al Sharpton, he confirmed that. He said, yeah, I told him that they could lie, that that's okay, because I know that they'll be with me in the next 2 years.
He basically said they're my folks, and that they vote with me. Did they practice their answers before they go? Did they get ready for this, whether it's Wasserman Schultz or whether it's in Kentucky, Allison Lundgren Grimes
and Nunn, and also Hagan, women Democratic candidates for Senate who will not admit that they voted for President Obama.
Right, but when you're in a room and you're getting ready for these interviews, you say this is how we're going to address it.
The answers are so similar, it's impossible to believe that they don't coordinate on some level. There's a lot of polling being done, a lot of focus groups, and so of course they share that information to try to figure out what's the least harmful thing we can do in this debate. Kay Hagan decided that the best thing she could do the other night is not even show up at all. And that probably did work in her favor, because she was going to be pressed on that very issue about President Obama.
So there's some movement in the polling. I don't know if you saw it, but 7 points in Colorado. Cory Gardner has a bit of an edge there.
He's ran a better campaign
on Mark Udall. But like Colorado is one of these places where the war on women was really featured from 2012, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz was like the cheerleader in chief of that. Which brings you to the question: if Gardner wins this race, is this message about the war on women, is that over? Is that defeated?
I don't think so, and I think you have to make a difference between the presidential election year and a midterm election. In a midterm election, there's different types of people vote. Fewer people vote, and probably the constituency that would vote most for Democrats don't necessarily show up in a midterm election like this because there's no presidential name on the ticket. I think that the war on women did not work this time around, and I think there's a couple reasons for that. It's boring. Women mostly care about jobs in the economy and national security, and this summer they've had a lot to worry about. But the third thing is that this will come back around to help them in 2016. Okay?
How so?
So, for example, Cory Gardner and Ed Gillespie, two Republican male candidates running for this year in 2014, when asked about birth control and the war on women, they turned the tables and said, we believe that all birth control should be available over the counter.
So
and their opponents said, what? But in 2012, when there was a presidential election, the war on women worked well because we had two Republican candidates who messed up royally and were just wrong-headed in their thinking, and that allowed the war on women to actually further and take off. I believe it will come back around. If Hillary Clinton is the nominee, it will come back around because that will be one of the ways she gets turnout in 2016.
Before we get to 2016, there's another report this morning that suggests that the chief of staff is asking a lot of folks at the White House whether they're staying or leaving after this election. Now, I've got a pretty good memory. I know people choose to leave, but I don't see stories written about the possibility that, Now, they're taking a straw poll as to who's in and who's out. But is that normal or not?
Remember, the one thing the White House loves to do is not be transparent when it comes to things that matter, like the IRS story you're going to do a little bit later in the show. But they love to talk about internal processes. So you talk about Debbie Wasserman Schultz. 2 weeks ago, or about 3 weeks ago, there was a story in Politico with unnamed White House aides throwing her under the bus, saying she's not done a good enough job, and President Obama is disappointed with her. Now you have the story about Chief of Staff McDonough saying, you know, if you're not going to be able to make it through the end of the term, why don't you think about leaving now? I don't think that's unreasonable. It seems a little early for me. We had a similar message in the Bush administration. The difference was, we didn't write a press release about things like that.
Well, we'll see where this goes.
But it is hard. You're going to need a strong team to finish out the last 2 years.
No question about that. 12 days to go, too, and we'll see what happens then. Okay. Nice to see you at 9:40 in the morning.
And this is the first show I've done all week where I haven't coughed.
Oh, well,
congratulations.
Well done. Thank you. So you're free, right?
I'm getting better.
I don't have anything to worry about?
No.
Thank you, Dana.
We're good for Dana's.
Martha, I don't know about the other four at 5 o'clock.
That's why I'm over here.
I mean, they've been warned.
Good to see you, Dana.
Thank you.
All right. So